How are you doing, my listeners? I am Joe Kyuik. I am staying temporarily at Oklahoma State University as a visiting Fulbright scholar. Now, I am meeting Professor Du, one of the most outstanding young Asian scholars majored in Asian history I've met. Recently, he has questioned about the historical issues in East Asian countries. I am going to ask some questions about his opinions and some ideas about the heated issues in this area. How are you doing, Professor Du?
Fine, thank you.
Although questions are not simple,
Mhm.
please answer my questions in brief. I know that your major is the history of China
Mhm.
and East Asian countries. What is the current theme you have concentrated on and the reason?
The, the current theme
Yes.
I'm concentrated on.
Yes.
I am interested in the study of locality in China and Japan, and I'm interested in figuring out how the local and the national related to one another in our contemporary time period. But I'm also interested in how local elites understood their position, the position of their local place inside the larger polity in the pre-modern time period. So in general, I should say my interest of research is the relationship between the part and the whole in different time periods, spanning both the late imperial period in China and Tokugawa period in Japan, and the modern times, modern history of these two countries.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Nowadays,
Mhm.
the situation of East Asian region is very serious. China and Japan stand in opposition over uh, Di- uh, Diaoyu Island. Yeah, I'm
Diaoyu
sorry,
Island.
Diaoyu Islands. At the same time, Japan and Korea stand in opposition over Dokdo.
Mhm.
What do these disputes in this area mean historically? What do you think about the desirable resolution as a historian?
I haven't paid much attention to this conflict. I know that the conflict has been going on for quite a few years, and I also know that it's a heated. There are heated debates and very passionate expression of very conflicting opinions on this issue. But in general, I think it's, put it bluntly, it's silly to make such a big fuss on such a small island by both of these two nations, and particularly considering that the age we are in is a globalizing age, is an age in which nationalistic ideas are fading, although the nationalistic sentiments are still there, but I believe that's more characteristic of the 19th and 20th century. In our age, I think a better way to look at issues like this is to look at it globally, look at it as an issue of cooperation and instead of conflict. Other than that, I would say we have to wait and see how politicians and the public in both countries handle the ongoing involvement of this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Recently, the scholars of three countries, like China, Japan, and Korea,
Mm-hmm.
are showing the different viewpoints about history.
Mm-hmm.
What is your resolution on the objective standpoint?
Uh, a standpoint on history.
Yes.
Do you mean that scholars from China, Japan, and Korea are having slightly different point of view on history, on
Yes.
historical issues from scholars in the U.S. or?
Yes, scholars in the U.S.
Mhm.
and scholars in their own countries,
Mm-hmm.
they have a quite different viewpoint about history.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to listen to your objective viewpoints about history.
In terms of the history of China, which I had, which I have more experience in studying, my feeling is that scholars who do research on China, who U.S. scholars
Yes.
and in a larger and to a certain degree, scholars in Japan, in Europe, although they don't mostly live in China, although they don't use Chinese language in their daily life, but I think their scholarship is as reliable as many historical researches made in China. Historical study is of course, enterprise that cut across national boundaries. We are historians, Korean historians, Japanese historians, Chinese or American historians. I believe the things we share, particularly the method and our faith in the ability to approach historical truth is more important than the differences that separate us. For example, we have different experiences, and we probably in our lives we follow different cultural conventions, but that shouldn't make any party's historical research less reliable. Okay, we have historical sources, right? We are scholars. We can reason. We can debate. Sometimes Chinese historians inside China, of course, have more access to some sources and are more familiar with the details of a lot of issues. But it doesn't mean that scholars inside China can monopolize monopolize the truth of historical issues. On the other hand, scholars beyond China have often provided really fresh perspectives on all kinds of issues about Chinese history. I myself, as a scholar grown up in China, trained in China, I felt that my eyes were opened when I moved to the United States, and my training inside China and my experience in the States are, I think, both both helped me to gain a reasonable understanding of the history and even contemporary issues of China.
Yeah, very good viewpoint, I suppose. Could you simply explain your current scholarly concerns or future plan?
I have done a lot of work on a local place in South China. It's a place called Huizhou, which is known for its merchants. The most well-known mercantile group in late imperial China came from that place. And that project has been just finished a few months ago, and I'm currently interested in doing some research on locality in a northern place, so that I can make some comparison between local cultures in South China and North China. And that local place in the north happens to be my hometown, called Anyang. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and your speaking for all Koreans. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're very
Professor.
welcome.
Yeah.